Okay, today in Precalc, we are learning to do a little bit more difficult domain questions. And that's where you have to know how to handle square roots and denominators and put them all on one graph. Usually I recommend using a number line. And then from there you figure out what's the final answer, and you write it in integral notation. Okay, so one step at a time here. By this point, you should have already learned that for domains of square roots, you should take that and set it greater than or equal to 0. So I'm going to do that over here. 2x minus 5 needs to be greater than or equal to 0. 2x needs to be greater than or equal to 5. X needs to be greater than or equal to 5 halves, also known as 2.5. Okay? Raise your hand if you got that part right. Okay, good. So on my number line, I'm going to put 2.5. You can put 5 halves, it'd be fine. And can it be that? Yes. And it says bigger than that, so I'm going this way. All right, now this might get affected by the other part of my answer, but I'll deal with that later. So far, that's the only thing that works. Okay. Now on the other part of my answer, if you can factor this, you should. So I'm going to factor that to x plus 1 and x plus 1. You get that? All right. So now that I've got that factored, I can say the bottom is supposed to be not equal to 0. X plus 1 times x plus 1 should be not equal to 0. So what would make it equal 0 if x was what? Negative 1. Well, negative 1 would be like over here. And it was already not possible that it could be negative 1, so it's still not possible for it to be negative 1. We just have an empty spot over here. So does it really even matter then? No, it doesn't, because what's the final answer is only the things that work, right? And nothing over here works. So what would be the final answer? 2.5 to infinity, and it can be 2.5, and it never gets to infinity, so it looks like that. Raise your hand if you had it right. Awesome. Okay, that's like the tougher kind. All right, there's one more curveball I'm going to throw you. What if you had this? Now, would you agree that I have said that wherever you have a square root, you should take it and set it greater than or equal to 0, right? You solve it, and you get x is greater than or equal to negative 2. That all seems right, doesn't it? But there's a catch. What's different about this one than any problem I've ever shown you? Square root's on the bottom. Now you tell me, if I actually put in negative 2, it'll be a problem, won't it? So whereas in the past we have just not worried about that negative 2 because it would make it 0, and square roots of 0 are okay, but not if they're on the bottom. So you'd have to be extra careful if you ever have a square root on the bottom to catch this, that negative 2 normally would have worked, and anything bigger would have worked, and this would normally be the right answer. But be careful if it's ever a denominator, because then you can't let it be 0, so this little circle has to be an empty circle, not a filled-in circle. And that makes your answer negative 2 parentheses to infinity instead of bracket. That's all it would take to get that one wrong on a test. That'd be a very easy mistake to make. Okay. All right. So there's a couple examples of the harder domain questions. The one last thing I want to talk about is range. If I'm asking you to get a range of something like this, you always do a picture. We're not going to ask you to do the ranges algebraically. We're always going to make you get a picture. So in your head, picture what square root looks like, and then picture where I should move it if I do plus 5, and then sketch it quick on your paper. Just do a quick sketch of what does that graph look like, and then you'll be able to tell me the range really easy. Just graph it quick. Okay, so you should have been thinking square root of x looks like this. Then you move it where? Plus 5, which means what? Up 5, yes. There. Now, the range is from how low to how high, and it's a y thing. So I'm going to run right on the y-axis here and say, how low does it go? Goes to there. How high does it go? Forever. So my range is from, how high was this anyway, right there? 5 to infinity. And then, does it touch the 5? Yes, so bracket. Range is from 5 to infinity. Raise your hand if you knew that one. Okay, good. All right. That's a typical, we won't give you anything that you can't make a picture of. Like, for instance, you should be able to make a picture of this and go, okay, I know it's a V shape, and I know it's been moved where? Down 3. So generally it looks like this. Now what's the range? The range goes to infinity and down to -3. So you'd say -3 to infinity. Yes, sir. Don't have to, but it's a good idea. Does it? You touch to -3. So you're saying that if I put in x is 0, I'd have y equals -3. It does get there, doesn't it? So it touches -3, yes. So -3 to infinity, bracket. Okay. And that's all I have for the video for today, because it's pretty much a review day.